Hi guys, and welcome back. My name is Alexandra. This is Saturn-ruled 9, and today we are talking about week 5 of Charity's season of The Bachelorette. To me, this episode seemed like filler material, so I don't think that this is going to be a very long video. We'll just keep it sweet and simple, which is nice from time to time. So let's get into it. Okay, we start off in New Orleans. This is their new location. Charity calls it romantic, which is not the word I would use for New Orleans. Been in New Orleans a few times, and first time was great. The second time I was walking down Bourbon Street with my boyfriend, and I was just a little freaked out. So romantic is not what I would call New Orleans personally. The boys are sitting at a table talking about Charity and how they need more time. And of course, Charity walks up right in this instant to announce the first date. She's taking Joey on the one-on-one, and they go off. Aaron is grumpy about not getting it because he's from New Orleans and wants to show her around the city he grew up in. And Sean is all puffed up about not getting it because it's been 5 weeks now and he has not gotten any real significant time alone with her. Tanner is also bummed out, but his reaction, in contrast to both Aaron and Sean, is to say there's nothing you can do. You just have to stay calm, which I don't have to say anything about. This is 9 territory. Then we cut to Joey and Charity riding in a horse-drawn carriage around New Orleans. Charity tells the camera that it's always easy with Joey, and Joey's very effusive, but it's good to take note that he doesn't really say anything specific to her. He stays in kind of cliche general territory, so that's just a note for later. Just keep that in your mind. Yeah, they go eat some Louisiana cuisine, they walk around, they get they get their fortune read or whatever you do with fortune tellers. And Joey is just continuing to be affirmative and effusive and just super generous with his compliments, which we know she loves. To me, it's very easy to see why people would like Joey, especially a wider audience. But looking closer, it's not very easy to pick out his substance from his general charm and display. Who's Joey? Especially outside of the affirmation he gives. This is, again, important for later, especially knowing that he's a 9 with a 3 fix. Yeah, he says all the right things. He's like a Hallmark card. At some point, they sit down, Joey and Charity sit down in front of a poet who writes poems on the spot. And the poet asks Joey to tell him about Charity, things he likes about Charity. And of course, Joey just takes this moment to go off. He says, "She's captivating. I don't know how she could walk into a room and not be the person that everyone looks at. She has a smile that could brighten anyone's day. I get lost in her eyes, da-da-da-da-da." Like, come on. What about that is specific to her at all? I could say that to anyone. That's in every Hallmark movie ever for a reason. It casts a very wide net that anybody could be caught up in, and it works. I think Joey is really appreciated and really liked by a wider audience for this very reason. He just says very wide general things that everyone gets caught in. And he does this because he knows that he can meet whatever he catches in his net. That is part of the magic of being 963. You can go as broad as you want because you know you can meet whatever fits into that net. Then the poet asks Charity about Joey, and Joey has nothing but glowing things to say about him. And then we have a million shots of Joey looking like a Cabbage Patch Disney prince. Joey and Charity cause no disruption to each other. There are 0 ripples. There's 0 dissonance. So it's of course they had a great day. But to me, what can we see that they're affected by within each other? Just besides the fact that they're not affected by each other, is the lack of disruption what they're seeing as the thing that they like? This is an important question to ask when you're dealing with 9s. Okay, now we move to the night portion. Charity says she's grateful like a million times. Joey talks about how strong their connection is. Again, very general kind of nothings between the two of them. And Charity takes this opportunity to ask Joey about what being in an interracial couple would look like for him, how he would experience that, how he would approach it, if he's informed with this kind of dynamic. She says that her ex was very ignorant on these types of dynamics, and eventually it weighed on the relationship, and it was something that weighed really heavily on her. In response to this, Joey says, what does he say? I guess what he said was that his family is very loving and won't care that she's black, and also that because he doesn't have experience in an interracial couple, has never dated a black woman, he doesn't know how he'd approach it, but he's willing to learn as he goes with her. Charity is super moved by this. She's brought to tears, which to me says more about her ex than it does about Joey, because isn't that the bare minimum? I'm not meaning to undermine Joey when I say this, because I think he's lovely. I just think this pairing is made up of two individuals who are kind and considerate, who are also receiving kindness and consideration from their counterpart, especially Charity, possibly for the first time. I think that's why she's so moved by this relationship, not because it has any personal substance to it, but because she's being treated kindly and considerately. She's on the other end of the 9 behavioral structure, which is why I think people like 9 so much, and why I can be so suspicious when other types get involved with them. Sometimes people like the passivity of 9 because it means they can run whatever ego game on them or around them and they won't receive any pushback. And other times I think they confuse affection for the person themselves, the 9 themselves, for the benefit that the other person is receiving from getting this kindness and consideration. They're benefiting from the self-effacement of 9 and confusing that for liking the 9 themselves. So yeah, I can be a little salty about that, but I also recognize that that is the 9's job to not self-efface and to show up and to not make it super easy on their partner. 9s, do not make it easy on your partner. Be nice and considerate and all of that kind of stuff, but don't make your entire relationship with your partner be about keeping them comfortable. And for people getting involved with 9s, what do you like about the person? Not the behavior, not how they treat you, not the way they make you feel. What do you cherish about them? What do you admire about them? What will you champion about them, especially outside of their relationship to you? Okay. Done with that. I clearly have no past to pull from, and I have not observed this dynamic a million times. Anyway, yeah, Charity is super moved by this. They have a really sweet hug, and I think they have a connection, but I think their connection is based on comfort and space. I think Charity is clearly not used to being held and given space to exist as her own, and I think Joey's able to do that for her. Okay, she gives him the rose. After he gets the rose, he tells her that he's falling in love with her, to which she tells the camera. She has this moment where she's speaking to herself, where she grounds herself into herself, and she says, Charity Lawson, tonight somebody told you that they're falling in love with her. Let me find the quote. Not you asking them, not you begging them, because they wanted to, which is, I think she's just comfortable with him and flattered to be treated this way. She didn't say anything about him back. Okay, back at the hotel with the Mans. It is date card time. Sean is getting a lot of attention from the camera. He's, again, saying that he needs time. He needs to be able to build with Charity. He's been waiting too long. He has not had enough validation, blah, blah, blah. On the date card, we find out that Sean and Tanner are going on a 2-on-1. So both of them will be going on a date with Charity together, competing for the rose, which means that the other person will go home at the end of the date. Sean hates this. He throws a little fit, and it sounds like he's about to call his dad and ask him to sue someone. And he says that he's going to engage in competitive mode. So this part of the show, I think, is a good little observation on 3. So let's look. So for this date, the 3 of them take a swamp tour on the bayou. They see a bunch of alligators. That's kind of cool. I'm from Florida, so I kind of know that environment. It's cool. The general atmosphere is that Sean is a 3, and he's competing against Tanner, who is a 9. Tanner is telling the camera that Sean is clearly in competitive mode. He's really grabbing attention, really fighting, really competing. And Tanner just kind of expresses that he's falling behind. He acknowledges the connection that Charity has with Sean and isn't really doing much to compete with that. So that's the day portion. The night portion, they go to a dinner with no food. And Charity just gets alone time with each of them. To me, there isn't really that much to say on this section. It's just more emphasis on Sean's active competitiveness, contrasted to Tanner's passivity. Tanner and Charity have a nice moment where Tanner opens up about his ex-girlfriend of 3 years having ghosted him very suddenly after an argument. Hearing another 9 tell a story of an easy disruption that severed their connection immediately was something she could have sympathy for, and I think it did bring them closer, a little bit at least. And this seems to tip the scales back into balance when it comes to Sean versus Tanner. Sean versus Tanner. Hate their names. Okay, we cut back to the hotel. Aaron is annoyed because he wants a one-on-one. This is New Orleans. This is where he grew up. Hello, give me time. But Dotun gets the one-on-one, which causes this big stir because Dotun got the one-on-one last week. So Aaron finally says he's pissed. We all give him a round of applause for finally acknowledging that. And then that's it. We go right back to Charity, Sean, and Tanner. She's about to give out the roses, but she says she can't give it out because she needs more time. So she's going to decide on one of the 2 of them at a later time. So in the meantime, we move to Dotun and his one-on-one. Charity tells the camera that she is going to embrace all that the day throws at them. And it's funny because throughout this date, they both say the word embrace a lot, which is, in case it's not obvious, it's like a funny nineism that speaks to a passive acceptance of whatever flows in your direction, as opposed to control over the environment and what happens in the day. It's just passivity. I will just accept whatever happens. Dotun and all 18 feet of him run up to Charity, and Charity tells him that they're going to run a marathon, which would hands down be the worst thing I could ever be told on a date. No, I'm not doing that. Yeah, they run the Crescent City Classic, which is not actually a marathon, it's a 10K, but for the show, it's a marathon. We cut back to the hotel again. This episode was just so lazily edited together. But anyway, we cut back to the hotel again, and the men are debriefing about the previous night's 2-on-1. Sean, again, is expressing that he needs validation from Charity, which as a 3 will come in the form of attention. He is not feeling valued by Charity right now because she has not yet chosen to give him prolonged attention, which will make him feel valued. I also want to point out Xavier's face on this part. I'm just going to keep stitching Xavier's face throughout this video because he's just King 9 throughout the whole episode. Okay, back to Dotun and Charity. They're just walking around, they're drinking, they're socializing. It just seems like a good time. Charity has a kind of dorkiness that comes out, I think, when she's unselfconscious, and we're really seeing that part of her, which is cute. Cute, cute, cute. Next, we move to the night portion of Dotun and Charity's one-on-one, and the first thing I notice is that Dotun's like 1,000,000 feet tall. He really is like 2 entire feet taller than Charity. She asks him how he feels about her coming to meet his family, and he says that he's very excited, but that he has some fears. And in sitting with that fear and examining that fear over time while he's been in this experience, he has been able to recognize that it's really a fear of failure. Then he talks about how in his life, every time he's gone after something that he really wants, he ends up not getting it, which re-emphasizes this feeling of failing. He says that this is the same fear that comes up around Charity. He likes her, he feels very excited about her, his heart is totally in it, but his head cannot let go of a fear that going after something he wants is going to end with him falling flat on his face. It's going to end up with him feeling heartbroken. Which, to tie this in enneagrammatically, this is very typical for 9. I think it's typical for a lot of people, but because Dotun is a 9, in the case of 9 specifically, this is a struggle with their line to 3. It is really hard as a 9 to value yourself and what you want enough to go after it. That's the entire call to action for 9, is to learn to value yourself enough to take action, to move into an assertive space. For 9, it's just so much easier to meet whatever floats in your direction and make the best out of that instead. Charity says she fully relates, which Dotun says makes him feel a lot better. Dotun also tells her that he is learning how to unlearn this fear by being with Charity, which she, of course, loves, which I loved. And that in place of that unlearning is learning that sometimes a good thing is just a good thing. He can just let it be. Charity tells the camera that she loves this. She loves the vulnerability. She loves the sharing of his fears because she gets to know them, ad-libbing, but she gets to know him more personally and more deeply. Then we go back to Dotun and he tells Charity that his heart is fully in this. His head still has his fears, but if he's learning how to listen to his heart is telling him that he's falling in love with her. She is so happy to hear this. Her face just immediately blooms up into a smile that she has to try to control, and she says that she feels like she just got electrocuted. Then she gives him the rose, obviously. Okay, let's compare Dotun and Joey. These are 2 9s vying for the heart of a third 9. I think they're also both in the 3-6-9 trifix. I think Dotun is 9-6-3 and Joey might be 9-3-6. Not that it matters too much because they're still the same trifix. They both said that they're falling in love with Charity, so what is the difference amidst all of these similarities that they have typologically? I'll say first, we know that the show is edited. There could be a lot more, but we're just going to use what the show has to show us. To me, the most glaring difference is that when Dotun speaks, he is speaking with specificity and he is revealing who he is. When Joey speaks to Charity, he kind of stays obfuscated, and he obfuscates with charm and compliments and effusiveness, but he stays hidden. When Dotun speaks to Charity, he is letting her know who he is and how he is being impacted by Charity, and in what specific ways. And when Joey speaks to Charity, his focus is on Charity and on singing her praises with really broad strokes. I think she feels good with both of them, she feels comfortable with both of them, and definitely valued by both of them. But I'm going to guess that she feels closer to Dotun because she knows more about him. Where with Joey, she might feel more like a celebrity that is really adored by a fan. I think Joey plays to her 3 fix or her line to 3. Okay, back to the hotel. We get another date card. Aaron is still whining. And on the date are Aaron, Tanner, Xavier, and who's the last one? Sean. Sean tells the camera again that he's gotten 0 validation, and then Dotun comes in with his rose and just makes everything awkward, which is just a dirty move on producer's part because Dotun clearly doesn't want to come in and make everyone feel uncomfortable. I think he was made to do that. I think the producers are just trying to crack Aaron and Sean, who are like already on kind of a tipping point. Also, here's more of Xavier being the 9th to ever live. Okay, Sean decides that he needs answers from Charity, so he goes to her hotel room in order to talk. And this part was just not interesting to me. He does have this conflicting story, which I think is an interesting illustration of 3. His confidence has not wavered the entire time he's been here, but also that he's gotten no validation. As a 3, he was asserting value, the value being a man whose confidence is not unwavered, for her, of course. And he asserts that value in order to have it validated by his object, which in this case is Charity. Remember that 3 is also an attachment type that wants to stay within the approval of what it is attached to. In this case, Sean is attached to Charity, so wants to stay within her approval. With 3 being an image type, like I said earlier, that approval and validation of value is felt through attention. We value what we give attention to. This, by the way, comes from Josh Levine from the Enneagram school, so I will link that down below. This is his developmental theory of the centers. I am just observing it in the show. Anyway, yes, so 3s recognize that society values what it gives its attention to, so it decides that they will be valued when they are being seen, when they are being witnessed. And if they are being witnessed and seen, that must mean that they too are valuable. This is where their drive to get attention comes from. And with 3 being an assertive type, they are asserting getting that attention. They assert their embodiment of what they see other people valuing in order to get that attention and thus be valued themselves. So back to Sean and Charity. Sean tells Charity that not getting the rose on the 2-on-1 made him sad and that he wants to know what's going through her head because he says, because I'm totally in the process of falling in love with you. Totally in the process of falling in love with you. Okay. Charity immediately closes her eyes and sighs, which is not a good sign, and basically just starts to break up with him, saying that she doesn't know if she can get there. Sean cuts her off to assert his confidence again by saying that with a one-on-one, with time, with attention, with witnessing, with being seen, he's confident that they can get there. But Charity sticks to her guns and says, no, I can't get there, and walks him out. We knew that this relationship was going nowhere, so I remain unfazed by this, but it was cool to have some attention on 3 for a change amidst all of these 9s. Okay, so now we cut to the group date, and now with Sean gone, it is only Aaron, Tanner, and Xavier. Xavier tells her that he wants to be honest with her, that the idea of committing to one person is scary because he just wants to do it once and it has to be a decision that is made without any doubt. He says that he knows he wants to be engaged, he knows he wants to be married, and now it is just a question of whether or not that is to her. And in response to this, you see Charity's face physically fall. But he turns it around by saying if she's the one, he doesn't want to pass that up, and generally the tone changes to positive again. He does tell the camera that he feels stronger about their connection after being honest with her, which I took as him being proud of himself for potentially disrupting a connection with honesty that would potentially upset her. Okay, then she comes back to all the men all together and she hands out the first rose. She gives it to Aaron, which is fine. And Xavier is really sad about this because he thought he had it in the bag. He says that anytime he speaks from pure honesty to a woman, it puts doubt in their head. Which made me a little sad for him because I think that's in large part due to his sensitivity about disrupting relationships. He doesn't want to disrupt a relationship or make it feel bad. 9s that are especially fixated think that the way to stay connected in relationships is to not cause waves, to not be disruptive. And as everybody on the planet knows, relationships are naturally disruptive. That is part of their nature, part of the ebb and flow. So I think what he's probably feeling is like he put their relationship at risk by being honest, and it's making him sad again. Okay, Charity picks up the second rose. It is between Aaron and Tanner. And then she puts it back down saying she needs more time, which I thought was really dumb because who believes she's going to give it to Tanner? It's obviously going to Xavier, but whatever. That's what the show decided to do to entertain us. And we know this because the very next day she goes to Tanner's room and breaks up with him. I did actually feel a little bad because we finally get to see some of Connor's personality. He's been here for nothing and he seems really grounded and gentle and sweet. He was super gracious during the breakup. He said that Charity has such a big heart, which is why he was trying to stay strong so that she doesn't feel that he has been hurt by this. Obviously, 9 as fuck. He doesn't want to disrupt her with his feelings. I think he's the one that comes back in the teaser from last week. I just don't know why else we would have seen nothing from him just to suddenly get all of this. That makes him look really good. Anyway, now Charity walks over to Xavier's room and basically fakes him out by making it seem like she's not going to give him the rose. She picks up the rose and says, I don't need to give out this rose, but I want to. I want to meet your family. He smiles really big and they make out for a really long time and she's super turned on by him. Okay, that is the end of the episode. Next week, everybody's at hometowns, so we meet their parents, we meet their families, we get to see them in a larger dynamic that will give us more dimension on who they are, which is always juicy because family is insane. So that will wrap up this video. I will have the Enneagram school linked in the description. It is a new Enneagram school founded by Josh Levine and John Lukovich. Their first offering is Josh Levine's developmental theory of the centers, which is a lot of what I will reference through my videos. So check it out. It's amazing. Of course, let me know any thoughts, any feelings, any insights, any observations you have had, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, and anything you want to say. All right, I will see you guys next week. Bye.